Do you consider it as a challenge being compared to the Avengers? And how different, when people ask you, how different is it?
We're street level heroes. We're not
Yeah.
we're not nearly as powerful as those guys are. And as a consequence, I think the genre and the tones of our show, of the Avengers and our shows are very different. You know, we talk about how, you know, they are saving the world from mass destruction and we are saving a 10 radius city block, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, but they're hoping for a crossover, is that?
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come.
Why do you come?
Recently, the official Marvel's Defenders Facebook page posted a comment talking about Spider Guy. And a lot of fans out there are wondering if that is a nod that the Defenders know of Spider-Man. You know, New York isn't that big of a city.
No, I don't know anything about that, but
What's the Spider-Man?
Spider.
Spider Guy.
Look, you're just trying to get us in trouble so that I'll get stuck with hashtag it's all connected.
Yeah.
But look, it is. I mean, at the end of the day, they do all live in the same world. But as we've said from the very beginning, the Avengers are interested in saving the universe, and the Defenders, and individually each of these characters, are more interested in saving, whether it's the neighborhood, and in many cases, this lady's, just herself.
Just a bottle of booze.
You know, at the end of the day, and in many ways that can be equally compelling.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember the front cover of one of the magazines, or sorry, one of the comic books, having Luke Cage uppercut Spider-Man. So if he's ever in the neighborhood, I'd be happy to punch him. Just you know.
That's now the lead of the story.
No?
No, that's it. Like everyone did everything, and now it's just Luke Cage going to fight Spider-Man.
No, I'm just saying that he was in the neighborhood at some point, right?
But real quick,
Spider-Man.
We need to figure out our next move. No, there is no next move.
And there is no we.
I think the Hulk. But I think he would give everyone the toughest fight. Okay. Who? The Hulk. The angrier he gets, the more powerful he gets, which you can't defeat him, because the closer you get to hurting him, the more powerful he gets. I don't know if that mathematics works out, but I think that he beats everyone ultimately.
A fellow Marvel superhero without superpowers, namely Agent Carter, that I spoke with recently, said her superpower was she goes unnoticed in, you know, America of the 40s, so she can do whatever she wants and no one ever suspects her of anything.
I don't think Haley Atwell ever goes unnoticed, but okay.
Well, Agent Carter does.
Yeah.
So that now that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is ever expanding, and there's 4 more shows to come on Netflix, but there's just so much more out there. There's endless possibility, you know, for guest appearances, cameos, whatever, for season 2 of Marvel's Daredevil. Is there anyone, from anyone really, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that you would like to have on Marvel's Daredevil season 2?
Sadly, I recently in an interview I answered that question and I got in a bit of trouble. I would hate to speculate. I have no idea. As you say, there's so many wonderful characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that could make an appearance in one way, shape, or form. But at this point, I know nothing about season 2 other than that we will be doing it. What is exciting to me when I look ahead is I'm excited to find out what the relationship between Matt and Foggy ends up being, you know, how they develop their relationship after what happens at the end of the season. Similarly with Matt and Karen, obviously the comic books, there's a history between them that's a romantic history that I'd be interested to see if that begins to develop in the second season or not. So there's many things I'm excited about with the characters that still exist, let alone new characters. So we'll see.
So now that Daredevil is out there as part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I know you've answered that question before to a colleague. You said you didn't know anything about Daredevil ever becoming an Avenger.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, he's like a street level hero, and the Avengers is like flying people that save the world.
Yeah.
Do you still think that Daredevil would be a good Avenger if he ever got to do it?
Well, you know, if you read this again, if you read some of the comics, if you read Civil War, for example, you know, Daredevil is kind of in the background, he's on the periphery, but he ends up serving as a very useful device. within that, he allows himself to be captured and kind of infiltrates that way. So yeah, I absolutely could. I would love to see Daredevil as part of that story in that world. But I have no idea if that's in any way intended. But as you say, I mean, it's difficult because, as you say, I don't think he can really compete with the kind of powers that some of the Avengers have. But he's no coward, you know. He'll turn up and he'll take a beating and he'll do his best, and I think he can be a real asset. So I don't know. I would love to see him as part of all that, but who knows, you know.
So maybe we're gonna see Daredevil on Civil War.
I would love to see that. I don't know if it's going to happen purely because by the time we had premiered Daredevil, they were about 3 weeks away from starting to shoot Civil War. So that's kind of close to try to jam in Daredevil. So I don't know if it'll happen in Civil War. And honestly, nobody's told me, so I don't know. And even if Charlie knew, I don't think he could tell me. Of course.
I think if Daredevil or I was gonna be in Civil War, I probably know at this point. So but maybe not. But there's always the hope that he'll make it in the new Avengers. I have no idea. Maybe.
Of course.
Fingers crossed.
I'm Wilson Fisk, and I have a
feeling
that if I can do anything for you, I would like to see Daredevil in Civil War.
Do you think Wilson Fisk will make it into the new Avengers?
He should. That you have a lot of friends who actually actors friends who already played Marvel characters.
Yeah, that's right. Well, for some reason, I have no idea why, but for some reason, a lot of superheroes at the moment are Brits, and so
why is that?
I don't know. It's odd. There's another one. They've just cast Benedict Cumberbatch, I think. As going to play Doctor Strange. So I don't know the reason for it, but I'm friends with Tom Hiddleston and Andrew Garfield. Again, not in the Marvel world, but I know Henry Cavill a little bit, who's in the DC. But we don't talk about that. One of the things I was so excited about our show was that we get to spend so much time in origin, and we don't have to necessarily do it chronologically as well. So if people have watched our show, that we know that we do a series of flashbacks throughout the season to tell the story of Matt Murdock's kind of journey into the man that we're meeting at the beginning of the show. And I love that because when I go and see the Marvel movies, that's my favorite part of the film often is when Spider-Man's been bitten, he wakes up the next morning and he's discovering what's happened to him and who he is, and he goes to high school, blah, blah, blah. I love that time. You know, I think that really appeals to the child in all of us, you know, that idea of waking up one morning and being so different and unique in becoming a superhero.
Excellent. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the movies. How closely involved are you in terms of whether the character will move into the existing film franchises or even a spin-off involving some of the other characters?
If I was involved, we would be in pre-production right now. I'm not involved in any way in those discussions. I'm not privy to any of those to those decisions, but I would love it. You know, I mean, I had such a great time playing this character, and you know, I really enjoyed reading the new Avengers series and the Civil War, etc., etc. So I don't believe I'll be in Civil War because I think they're already into that. But it'll be if further down the line that opportunity presents itself, I'll be there in a flash.
Is that something that has been discussed, or is that still, you know, series by series at the moment?
No. I mean, when you sign a contract to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they obviously work that in so that if they so choose to use you, you are obligated. But that doesn't mean there's any way guaranteed or even that if they were to include Daredevil in one of the movies, it's not guaranteed that I would get that part. I might have to audition for it.
Just imagining that Daredevil and Karen are seen on the big screen with other Marvel characters. Who would you want to hang out with?
I'd have to go with girl power and say Black Widow. She's awesome.
She is
love that character.
Can I say the same one?
You can, clearly. You want to hang out with Karen Page and Black Widow? Kick some ass.
Yeah, Black Widow's a ex-girlfriend of Matt Murdock, so that could be awkward. No, I've been reading recently. I've been reading Civil War, which I know they're making, and Daredevil does appear in that. So
he does.
It's not. And look, again, just to clarify, I've not been called about that. I've not been invited to that party at this point. But it would be very, very cool to just be in the background saying some cool stuff every now and again. And Yeah.
Just a dark shadow.
Yeah.
Flashes
It'd be cool.
across
It'd be
the
cool to be
screen.
with all those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a right
it.
blur of
I
red.
think that was dark. I think that was it. Daredevil.
And just to finish, will your impersonation of Daredevil join eventually the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I would love to know the answer to that question. I've not been told anything, but it would be a great privilege if that was to be the case.
Which character did you like grow up with? Like any other Marvel or?
Well, I grew up, everyone grows up with Spider-Man, and when I was a kid, when I was young, I lived in an apartment in a flat in London, so we didn't have outdoor space or anything. So you have to, as a kid, you've got to figure out cool things to do to entertain yourself. And I remember at one point I realized that if I got my palms were really sweaty, then I could climb up the door frame, like by pushing against the side of the door frame, you could climb to the top,
Right.
At age 5. And I remember thinking, maybe I'm Spider-Man, I don't know, it's possible.
I could do that professionally.
Yeah. So, I was obviously a big Spider-Man fan. Spider-Man's a cool character. But my older brother was a huge fan of Thor. And, he used to pretend to hit me with a Thor hammer, yeah. So.
Nice.
Actually, he didn't pretend to hit me. He hit me with the hammer. Marvel and DC is doing such amazing things, particularly Marvel, I think, in the cinematic universe. And,
they don't flounder about.
yeah, and so, it's a tried and tested formula. We seem to have a huge appetite for superheroes and superhero stories, and so we feel very lucky to be invited in. Yeah.
And the tone of the show is very different to that of the movie side of the MCU, the like Avengers or Captain America side of things. What did you feel like with the actual tone of the show? Because it's quite dark and gritty and particularly very violent.
Yeah, well, again, I thought it was. I was excited about that, moving in that direction, and the idea of it appealing to a slightly older audience. And then as I got familiar with the comics, obviously in the preparation, I went and read a lot of the comics. As I got familiar with them, it became clear to me that really that's how you need to make Daredevil. It suits the source material really well. I love the Avengers films and I love all those characters and but really what they deal with is they deal with saving the world and saving the universe, and Daredevil doesn't have superpowers in the same way. He has these heightened senses, and he's a wonderful gymnast and martial artist, but he's not infallible. He's not he's very vulnerable, and that's something that we spend a lot of time dealing with in the show. So I was excited to explore a slightly different Marvel area of the Marvel universe.
You said you started reading the Daredevil comics. Any particular favourite story arcs that you read?
Yeah, the ones I like are the ones that when I'm asked this question, the ones I always cite are there's a really cool series where it's early on in the Bendis Malieve run where the Daredevil, Matt Murdock, defends the White Tiger, and I just think that was such an interesting dynamic for a superhero who the people don't know is a superhero to defend a superhero. So basically, when he's describing and he's helping people understand what it is the White Tiger has done, he's really also talking about himself, and I thought that was a very cool dynamic. Other than that, there's a cool episode where Peter Parker dresses up as Daredevil so Matt Murdock can defend him. There's so many, I love all the stuff with Maya as well, and obviously you can't talk about Daredevil really without mentioning Frank Miller's Man Without Fear.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and in the same way, when you go and watch the Hulk movie or the Captain America movie or the Iron Man movie, and then there's always that bit at the end, and you get to see how they're going to come together, and then the Avengers come out. It's thrilling, it kind of appeals to the child in all of us, I think, and so we've got the television version of that.
And just to wrap things up, last question: will we be seeing Daredevil mess around with the Avengers?
Oh, I'd love that. I have no idea. At this point, that has not been discussed with me in any way, shape, or form. But I would jump at the opportunity. That would be a further dream come true. But I have no idea.
I asked myself, how disappointed must an actor be who got offered a role as a superhero but doesn't have these huge superhero powers than the others, the others have, the Avengers, being a Hulk or being a Thor with these, I don't know, hammer thing and huge powers. You have to use your powers a little bit more difficile.
Yeah, and you know what? I think if you get the opportunity to be a superhero, any type of superhero, it would be very uncool to then complain about the kind of powers that you have. But you know, there's something different about Matt Murdock. What I love about Daredevil is that his seemingly great weakness is his great strength, you know, and so he's unique in that way, and that's what I think one of the things that I think makes him such a beloved character and so interesting. And also the other thing about making, you know, about superheroes, and particularly about Matt Murdock, is that because he doesn't, as you say, because he doesn't have superpowers or super strength or unbreakable skin, or, you know, he's fallible. He's really vulnerable, and from an acting point of view, that sometimes might be more interesting to watch, because you really feel like you know, when he walks into a room of bad guys, you know, he might get shot or knifed, or he does get knifed a number of times, and I think, you know, with Daredevil, you're concerned for him. I think he might not make it. He might not live.
Who do you think is the sexiest female superhero and why?
Well, interestingly, Daredevil has dated quite a few.
Oh, he has.
Yeah, so I have to be careful what I say here. You know what I mean? You know, I think it's probably I think Black Widow's pretty cool.
And
you know, it helps that Scarlett Johansson has done that.
Yeah.
You know, but what about you? Who do you think is the...
I like the Black Widow too, yeah, Scarlett Johansson. And I think Daredevil and the Black Widow kind of had something going on,
They had something
right?
going on at some point, yeah. And not...
And I know Daredevil and Spider-Man are good buddies too, right? They lived together for a while.
Right.
So could it happen that we see Spider-Man and Daredevil fighting alongside?
I mean, that would be very cool as well. I mean, there's a really great issue where Matt Murdock has to represent Daredevil in court. And so Matt Murdock, the lawyer, has to represent Daredevil himself in court in one of the issues. And of course, how can they both be in court at the same time? And so what happens is Peter Parker puts on Matt Murdock's Daredevil suit, and so he can sit as Daredevil in the dock. I just remember that issue and thinking it was really cool. I don't know if we'll get to that, but that'd be cool.
Motion poster that was released for Daredevil, you could see the Avengers Tower in the background, which is a nice little wink and nod to the fans. I mean, how you sort of mentioned that.
That was news to us, by the way.
Right,
We
okay.
found that out.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, okay, interesting.
So they're really going there. I mean, are we going to see little Easter eggs and little winks and nods to other Marvel properties throughout Daredevil?
Yeah. You know, I mean, I think the extent to which the crossovers will happen, you know, you'll all see how far it goes. But yeah, I mean, they're part of the same world. Yeah. I think, you know, someone's got to deal with the gods and the aliens, and someone has to deal with the mobsters.
Right. So. And, you know, unlike, you know, one of the great things about the Avengers is that's a world where superheroes are commonplace, and there's discussions about them in the media all the whole time, and blah blah blah. And I think there was an attempt with our show to make the existence of superheroes a little less common, a little more intriguing and exciting and different, and then
even a little suspect. You know, like someone who can do something like that maybe is a little scary, not just a hero.
Yeah. There's a nice moment at the very end of the most recent trailer where Toby Leonard Moore, the amazing actor who plays Wesley, says
an Aussie.
Oh, really?
Says talks about a man with an iron suit or a magic hammer. So that's, you know, it's a nod, it's an Easter egg, as you say, but it's not as blunt as it could be.
There's nuggets, you know, and lots of Easter eggs in our show, and as you know, the Marvel Universe is all connected. What that means going forward, I certainly don't know, and they wouldn't tell me. So, but it's I think that's a thrilling part of a thrilling aspect of being part of Marvel, is that this idea that it's all connected in some way, and you never know where someone might or might not turn up.
I have no idea if you know, if that's on the cards, and I would hate to presume. Obviously, I know now from my research, I know that Daredevil exists in Civil War, and he exists in the New Avengers, and you know, he's not a leading character, but even if he's just in the background, kind of like looking cool, then I'd be happy with that. But I have no idea. You know, they could equally use someone else to do that if they even include Daredevil in those movies and adaptations. but it's my great hope to be invited to that party, as it were. Well, Andrew Garfield was a friend of mine, so that would have been fun. And there's a street game in New York that people play called handball, which is, you know, it's a bit like squash but with your hand against the wall. And a few years ago, me and him played, and everyone was very excited because Spider-Man was playing handball. And I just thought it'd be fun if we played again, and it was Daredevil and Spider-Man playing. But obviously, I don't believe they are recasting, but they haven't cast that yet. You know, I'd love to see Peter Parker and Daredevil hang out. There's a wonderful issue of the comics where Matt Murdock has to defend Daredevil, and because of the public don't know, and so he has Peter Parker put on his Daredevil outfit so that he can sit in the docks. You know, great storyline.
I'm always fascinated to understand how the broader Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of operates, because you've got lots of different tonal elements to different things. How are you guys fitting into a broader universe?
I don't think we know.
No, okay, right.
I mean, there is you know, we're absolutely in the Marvel Universe, 100%, and there's nuggets and there's little moments where we reference that kind of
Look
stuff.
at that Tony Stark building.
Yeah, right. But there's also an attempt to keep it vaguely kind of autonomous and you know, of its own world, which means that the concept of being a superhero in this world is still very exciting and new and suspect.
Yeah. You know, you don't encounter Iron Man walking down the street or
That would be a good cameo, let's be honest.
Would be. But, you know, I don't even know if Marvel knows. I mean, I think this is just about telling these stories, and we'll see what kind of clicks, you know, and we'll find out down the line whether, do the fans want to see Daredevil, you know, interact with these guys or not, you know.
So it's not like you guys sign contracts that connect you to like 17 feature films, potentially, possibly, like that.
Oh, I didn't say that. Look, to answer your question, well, not answer your question, but to say what I want to say anyway, which is that if Daredevil appears in the Civil War movie that they make, or the New Avengers, I know if I'm invited, I'm going to that party.
I love that you've thought that far ahead.
Like, so you know, should I say that down the camera? Should I say that to the lens?
Yes, I think you probably should.
I'm available.
Coming out of this weekend, a lot of people were saying, I did it myself on Twitter, how now that everyone has seen this and is so excited, how it'd be so cool now to see, you know, Charlie Cox as Daredevil, Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin in one of the movies, you know, meeting these other characters. Is that something you're hopeful we'll get to see too? You know,
I would love to see that. You know, purely up to Kevin Feige and the feature side. I would love to see it. I mean, who wouldn't love to see Vincent D'Onofrio go up against Spider-Man?
Right.
Whether or not that'll happen, I think it's really too early to tell. But right now, we're just very happy that people have responded to this new corner of the Marvel universe.
We were saying the other day, we were doing a conversation here about the season overall, and we were saying that we're really hopeful to see D'Onofrio's Kingpin meet Spider-Man, and we're scared for Spider-Man next to this depiction of Kingpin.
He's, I mean, Vincent, I loved what he did. It was such a joy to work with. And when he beats on Daredevil, he is such a big, imposing man, and you really get the feel that, okay, you know, Matt Murdock has heightened senses, and he can flip around, but if this guy gets a hold of him, he's going to kill him, which I loved, and Vincent really brought that feeling.
There's so much with Marvel, where Spider-Man is now going to be in Marvel films, and your Daredevil is part of Marvel. Is it possible that you'll eventually do a Spider-Man thing?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, I would love to.
Would that be cool?
That'd be super cool, yeah. Yeah. To be able to kick Spider-Man's butt would be awesome.
It has happened too, so.
Yeah, but we just don't know about those things. Those are all the Marvel secrets that they never tell us until they need us. So.
Right. What's your?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No. I would just to end that question with, yeah, I would do it. I'd do it in a second.
Awesome.
I say congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
I've seen the first 5.
I was really pissed that that's where it ended, and I'm ready for episode 6.
Great.
So what's this experience been like for you? Because you hope the show is going to be well received, but I haven't heard anyone say a bad word. Like everyone's really digging it.
Yeah, so far, I mean, that's just the last 24 hours. So I'm kind of just hearing the rumors really, rather than having any confirmation yet. But
I'm telling you, it's
yeah,
good reaction.
I've heard it's a good reaction. I mean, look, I can't say it's I'm not overjoyed to hear that that's the case. I mean, I care greatly about the show and greatly about the character now, and I've come to realize how important he is and these characters are to so many people. So I was cautiously optimistic that what we had was a product that was very, very interesting and new, and the next evolutionary step in maybe the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But
you got used to the MCU, huh?
Yeah. But I wasn't sure. But you never know. You never know. And so I'm if people are liking it as much as they seem to, I'm absolutely thrilled for it again.
I was talking to Steven before, and that's like the big question I have. I always figured it was going to go Daredevil, Jessica Jones, like they had like their plan, and then it would end with Defenders.
Yeah.
I never even considered, wait a minute, they could do a second season before Defenders.
Oh yeah, they absolutely could. I mean, it's certainly possible, because they could, there's no reason why they couldn't do 2 shows at the same time. Because in these first 4, the characters are relatively autonomous. I mean, Jessica Jones does not appear in Daredevil, for example. And so, although I know that Luke Cage does appear in the Jessica Jones show.
Yeah.
But there's no reason per se why we can't do 2 at the same time. We couldn't do the Luke Cage show and Daredevil 2 at the same time. It's possible.
Is it a fun question to answer, or is it sort of like you can't believe how much you've been asked about how many times the possibility of Daredevil appearing in a movie?
Yeah.
Because they're filming, they just started filming Civil War.
Yeah.
They're going to be filming the 2-part Avengers. There's from what I understand, part 1 of Avengers is going to be very much not featuring the main characters because of contract things, that they'll be in part 2.
Right.
So
I've heard nothing. Okay. I would love nothing more than to be included in that group, but I've heard nothing, and I would hate to presume.
Because one of the things, I grew up with the comics, and one of the things I loved was the Spider-Man, Daredevil, like when those New York superheroes got to talk.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I do too.
And now it seems like that's a possibility.
Yeah,
so,
that's exciting, right?
Right. So
I love that. There's one episode where Matt Murdock has to defend Daredevil, and Peter Parker puts on the suit for him so he can do it.
How much have you been paying attention to like what fandom is saying and all these things that are bubbling up with Marvel doing Spider-Man, and now it's a thing that can be done together, and
Yeah, I don't tend to read too much of that stuff, but just because I don't want to, I don't find it necessarily very healthy to read too many opinions about oneself. I think it's nice to have a sense, but at the same time, you want to kind of like once we started filming the show, I wanted to stick to the path that I believed was the right one, and I was being encouraged to take by the creatives on the show. So I didn't want to read too much about what other people think, because I think there is the danger that you'll then try and please everyone, and I don't think that's the right thing to do.
In the Marvel Universe, these superheroes appear across projects, but has Daredevil Charlie Cox been offered a role in the next Avengers film, Infinity War?
Oh, I have not received that call. No,
Do you want that call?
Oh, yeah. I mean, can you imagine? That would be the coolest thing ever. But no, I have no idea what that whole, how those, Marvel TV and Marvel Studios are two very different things. So, even if the character was to appear in that film, that doesn't necessarily mean that I would appear in that film. I will pick a fight with the guy that they.
I see the headlines now, like Twitter feud.
But that would be a dream, but it's not something that has been.
I would love to see Spider-Man and Daredevil. I think for that to happen, Daredevil's going to have to pop up in the movie. But I always loved the comics where those two cross paths. Hell's Kitchen's very nice right now. It's very gentrified. It's very beautiful, very expensive. It's not at all like the Hell's Kitchen from the Frank Miller days, especially back in the 70s, which was very rough and tumble. So Drew came up with this great idea that Hell's Kitchen was partially destroyed in the Chitauri invasion in the Avengers. And that they're in the process of rebuilding it. And that process of rebuilding is where all the crimes come in and the opportunistic businessmen have come in. And so it was a great way to harken back to the old days of Hell's Kitchen and fold it into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But definitely our version of Hell's Kitchen does not exist in New York today. It's my hope that we'll have some cross-pollination with the movies in the future. Whenever you sign a Marvel contract, especially the actors, it's a multiple-year contract that also includes the possibility of appearing in the movies. And with the idea of entering into the next phase with the Civil War happening from the comics, which if people know the comics of Civil War, the heroes are very much divided in fighting among themselves. It's a natural place to introduce some of these television characters. But my hope is to see some cross-pollination.
If they decided, whoever they are, if Marvel decided that that Daredevil and me specifically would get an opportunity to be in one of the movies, I would love that. That'd be a dream come true, but I have no idea.
Team Cap or Team Iron Man?
Spider-Man.
All right, man. Team Cap or Team Iron Man? Cap. All right. Team Captain America or Team Iron Man?
I'm Captain America.
Team Cap or Team Iron Man? Snap judgment.
Oh, there she is.
I gotta, I'm a Team Cap guy.
Can I say Spider-Man now?
Yeah. Fans would kill me if I didn't say Spidey.
What?
Spidey would be really nice to drop by Daredevil.
You sure about that?
Since the last Avengers movie, I'm a big fan of Thor. He got crazy funny, he got a haircut, and he's like super powerful now. Did he?
He gets badass, yeah. He gets badass. Yeah.
What are you two giggling at?
Well, I was just saying to Joanne that I don't really know which character because I'm not that well versed.
I have no idea.
In the Marvel universe. I'm gonna take a page out of your book. What he said.
What he said?
Thor. We'd all like to see Thor.
I mean, I'll say this. I actually really enjoy they're up there fighting aliens and like Matt Murdock is defending the crap out of 10 blocks in Manhattan. Like that's, I think, really exciting that you can do this small level kind of real people stuff. I enjoy our small level scale, and I think these little hints and little missions are the fun bits.
The hints kind of like, maybe if we were to make it too explicit, I'm not sure it would be that exciting.
It would be as fun, yeah.
This is a minor, we've all seen Infinity War, have we not? I just want to make sure we've all seen it. Obviously Daredevil survives, but do you think any of Daredevil's friends were turned to dust?
I haven't seen Infinity War yet. We only just finished shooting. You know what I mean? I haven't had a chance. I'm really excited to see it, but
it's a good movie.
Thanks for not ruining it for me.
Being honest though, you've heard stuff about the movie.
No, nothing.
Oh, okay. Well then,
although I've heard apparently some people turn to dust. So.
How much did you enjoy filming? Listen, a lot of us really loved seeing everyone come together in Defenders, and it was only 8 episodes while all the other shows are 13. Do you think that there's a chance of a Defenders season 2? Is it something that you want to have happen?
I'm so sorry I hate to kind of shut down so many of these. I'm really asked to not speculate on this stuff. So I really have no idea if they're thinking about it. Honestly, don't. But when it comes to like kind of information about the show and characters and future seasons and the question that everyone loves to ask, which is, am I ever going to be in one of the movies? I
wasn't going to ask that one.
No. I'm just saying that in general, most of the time I know nothing, and very wisely they tell me nothing. But even if I do, it's kind of difficult because just to even speculate about it in a public forum, it then becomes something that people like to talk about, and then that very quickly that becomes the word of God. I have no idea about Defenders. I know that I had a great time doing the first season, and I love those guys, and I love the work that we did, and I love all of their shows. I feel very
proud of this little world. I say little, it now feels very big, but 2014, we started this one show, and in my mind, we were doing one show of a superhero. I didn't know what the big plan was, and I don't even know how much Marvel and Netflix knew what the ultimate plan was. If those first few shows hadn't gone so well, we may not have made the Defenders. I really don't know. But by the grace of God and the great writing and the great producing and directing and acting and every aspect of these shows and the success that they've had have enabled us to kind of create this mini little world that we're now part of. And it's so I see the other guys in the corridors. I'm filming the last episodes of Daredevil, let's say, and there's Kristen starting up season whatever of Jessica, and Finn lives in my building now. You know what I mean? So often, like the other day, I went down to get in the van to go to work, and the driver's there, and he goes, and I look at him, and I realize I've never met this guy before in my life, and he's waiting for Finn, not me, But no, I feel very proud. It's very cool.
When walking around Comic-Con, do you shop for anything?
I usually don't walk around just because I'm normally quite busy and other reasons. But I actually had a walk around yesterday. You guys are like really respectful. So I was walking around the convention yesterday. I did do something quite fun at the New York Comic-Con. I had a free couple of hours. I was meant to go. Had a panel. I was meant to go back home, but there was a really bad rainstorm, so I was just stuck in the convention. So I had a friend go and buy me a Spider-Man mask, and I put it on, and I went out into the convention just to walk around and see it for the first time. I'd never been out. And then I started seeing people dressed up as DD. So what we did is me and my buddy Sean, who was with me, we would go up to guys who were dressed as DD, and we were like, "Hey, can we take a photo with you?" And they would be like, "Sure." And then we'd be like, "Oh no, my phone is dead. Can we take it with your phone?" So the guys would be like, "Okay," and hand us his phone, and then I would take the mask off and take a photo with a guy in DD, and then I would put it back on and give him his phone back and walk away.
Hi. If you had a choice of any Marvel character to team up with, MCU or otherwise, is there someone that you would choose?
Yeah. Again, I have to be really careful here because.
Let's say outside of your world, maybe.
You know what's funny? You've definitely learned that anything you say can be literally. How many times?
See Ant-Man walking like in your show. So.
I mean, I'm sure I can say this. I'm sure I can say this because, well, I'm going to say it. And I'll just preface it by saying I can't see how this would happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I have no information suggesting that this would ever happen. But it'd be really cool it'd be really cool to see. I'd love to do something with Spider-Man.
Spider-Man season 3, we got it.
Very good.
Thank you.
That's very funny. What's your name? That's very funny.
I was going to say, I think everyone in this room and around the world would also love to see you with Spider-Man.
Hi, my name is Dane Fox. I'm from Canyon City, Colorado, and I'm a huge fan of Daredevil. My question is, after Daredevil, would you consider playing like another superhero like the Green Arrow or Moon Knight or someone else?
You know what? Right now, I couldn't imagine that at all. It's impossible for me to imagine. Look, maybe in a few years, and I know it's been done, as in people have played multiple superheroes or whatever. For right now, if not for anything else, just out of respect for the character, I feel like I just want to let some time pass, and also vaguely hoping that Dee Dee will have another life at some point. So, yeah.
Hi.
I found out. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I found out the other day. There's this petition. These guys are wearing this thing. Save Daredevil. There's a thing you can sign it. Sign it. No, sign it.
Next up. I was kidding. It seems that we have a guest on stage. It's Tom Hiddleston. Well, hello.
Hello, everybody. I don't mean to interrupt, but I was too excited by the coincidence that some of you may already know this, but I wanted to come and sort of announce, even though it's already been announced. It's such a coincidence that Charlie and I are both in the same building, because only a couple of days ago, it was announced that Charlie is going to join Zawe Ashton in Betrayal in London in the spring.
Wanted to say, last night at the show, you kind of mentioned it. You and Tom came out as your Marvel Universe character.
Yes.
Switched
We
though.
switched.
Yeah, you
We
switched it up.
switched.
Oh, you
We
did?
switched.
Yeah.
There we go.
So whose
That
idea was
very
it?
funny. That was Tom's idea. And it was such a clever idea because, you know, and funnily enough, you see the cowl that Tom is wearing.
Yeah.
It's actually, that was not part of the costume, but a fan had sent it to me. When we were in London, and so I had it in the dressing room.
Yeah.
And so he tried it on, and it doesn't fit me. It's too big for me. But he tried it on, and it works.
How long were you all out there signing autographs? That looks like a big crowd.
Yeah, and also those, the Loki costume was pretty uncomfortable. I said to him, I don't envy you.
Well, would you think you guys will ever be able to work together as Daredevil and Loki?
My show is I'm finished with my show now, so I'm not officially that.
Well, fans are not giving up hope, though.
Fans are not giving up hope.
No,
and they're very, very
they're
passionate,
not,
and I'm so grateful for that. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, I think that ship has sailed for now, at least.
For now, listen,
But
in this day and age, you never know.
I had a lovely run. We did, 50-something, 60 hours of television.
Yeah. Wow, yeah.
So it was a wonderful experience, and
Yeah.
I had a wonderful time with Netflix and Marvel. And,
It was good stuff.
Yeah.
Really good stuff.
And I also, my question is, if you could have any Marvel character as your either villain or sidekick, who would it be? And obviously as like Daredevil, who would you want a villain or sidekick to be?
I would love to do. I mean, this is so crazy. It would never, it would never happen. Probably, you know what I mean. It's almost impossible to imagine. And I always feel like I have to say that because sometimes I say things, I answer these kind of questions, and then the internet takes it as the word of God that this is going to happen. Charlie confirms that.
It's happening.
But like I really like the Daredevil Spider-Man stuff in the comics. It's really fun, And there's one issue in particular where Matt Murdock proves that he's not Daredevil because Daredevil shows up in the courtroom, and of course it's Peter Parker wearing the Daredevil suit, which is such a lame alibi because it's, but it'd be so cool to do, something like that. And I think Tom Holland is an amazing Spider-Man.
Agent Carter, we have got to say thank you to you for putting, just being an inspirational female superhero and taking that to another. But one thing, we all know you as Agent Carter. We've all seen you in lots of Marvel films. But, you do a lot of theatre as well. And I know you've got a big production on at the moment.
Yeah, both Charlie and I.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Tom Hiddleston as well, who's working with Charlie at the moment.
You guys know Tom Hiddleston?
Yeah, and that's kind of the exciting thing about what I get to do is the variety of roles and across all mediums. I think I started off in theatre and playing Peggy was such a I was a fish out of water, but what was wonderful about it was partly because I didn't know the comics very well. I just went into the audition like I would any job, which is to be prepared and to do what I feel is required and make a couple of choices. And so it kind of happened quite naturally, really. And I'd never imagined that however many years later, I'm here speaking about her still. And I think, I've played lots of different characters in my career so far. And if there was going to be one character that's followed me around so much, it's wonderful that it is someone like Peggy Carter who has these beautiful taglines like, I know my value, anyone else's opinion doesn't matter. And to have that said back to me from people who have taken Peggy and her values and the qualities into their lives is very humbling for me. It's been a really wonderful journey.
And of course, like Heather, you're also in the theatre yourself. You're in the West End at the moment.
Yeah. Yes, I'm doing a play with Tom Hiddleston. An amazing actress called Zoe Ashton. And we're doing a play called Betrayal. Many of you have been to see it. Thank you very much. Yeah, so that's great. It's great to be doing a bit of stage again. And there is no Daredevil low-key face-off, unfortunately.
Both of you, it's wonderful to see you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to ask a question about stage and screen, but you've kind of already covered some of that. So another question popped into my head. If Matt Murdock and Agent Carter met, how would they get on?
Well, Charlie and I get on, so if they did get on, we'd have to act really well and really convincingly. I think we'd get on. I think we can team up.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I know very little about any Marvel character. Me too! Just gonna put that out there really straight away. Like, people often say, you know, if you couldn't play Daredevil, who would you play? And I haven't read enough to be able to answer that question. I end up saying something stupid like Stiltman.
Who's that?
Exactly. I think very well. I mean, Daredevil has a pretty serious dating history, though. You know what I mean?
There's one last. I wanted to ask you both one last question because I'm looking around the room. I mean, look at these Agent Carter costumes. These are absolutely incredible. You've got Save the Daredevil on t-shirts. What does this fan base mean to you?
Well, as I said before, it's incredibly humbling. You know, was it 2008? You guys will know more than me about this. You know, and the fact that you guys know so much more about the universe than we do is, I think, a testament to what an extraordinary thing Marvel has been able to make for you guys. And it is because of you and your love for these stories, and that you relate to these stories. And although they have these sci-fi, fantastical, kind of supernatural elements to them, at the heart of them are stories about human beings that have qualities that we can all relate to, that feel very real. And that's thanks to you. You're helping to create this work. This work wouldn't happen unless you guys came to see it and wanted to see more of it. So I feel very indebted to you guys for keeping Peggy Carter alive for this time. So thank you.
Yes, I mean, similarly, I think that the thing that's been amazing about Daredevil for me is up until doing the show, I think I massively underestimated the impact that TV shows and characters have on audiences. And you only ever really hear from your friends and family who obviously, hopefully, care about you and love you. How, you know, like, oh, we love the show or whatever it is, and then playing a genre character and getting to go around the world and come to conventions and meet fans and like really hear what it means to you and how passionate you are about it and dressing up and costumes and remembering the lines and as Hedy said, you know, quoting lines back that I don't even remember saying and all that kind of stuff. It really is. It's really kind of changed the perspective for me on you know, work that I choose going forward and work I've done in the past. You know, really, it's really very humbling to meet people who care so much and really see. My mum has always said, you know, it's so lovely to have an effect on people, and I never really got it until I started coming to these things and meeting you guys. So thank you so much.
Where's the camera?
Right there.
Save Daredevil.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, just had an impromptu meet-up with the Save Daredevil campaign followers. Thank you so much for everything you've done. It's so cool, and I'm so proud of you guys. Thank you.
But I think the likelihood is, I think you'll definitely see Daredevil again. I just think there'll probably be I think the best bet for them, in the unlikely nature of them being able to get all of us together again, it should be a whole new team and you know, start again. You know, why not? And you know, they do it with Spider-Man all the time, and I keep consuming that stuff because I love it.
Right.
You know,
absolutely. I'm not sure how online you get or what you read, but obviously there's Spider-Man rumors aplenty. You know, they say Daredevil's popping up in Spider-Man 3. Obviously, you've probably haven't heard from Marvel, I take it.
Yeah, it's not. Yes, I hadn't heard those rumors, but I mean, it's certainly not I'm certainly not involved in any of that. I have not. If that's true, it's not with me. It's with another actor.
I mean, do you want to appear with Spider-Man? I mean, it's Spider-Man, right?
I just love. You know, look, I'd love to. Look, I'm very grateful. I had a great time. I had a great run of it. I couldn't be happier. I'm so grateful I got to play that character for as long as I did. But of course, I would love to keep going. I'd love to be involved with as much of. You know, I love it as a fan of the Marvel movies. I love the little stuff that they do where they pop up here and there. And that was the one thing, because we were on Netflix, we weren't really able to do as much. I think for kind of legal reasons. I don't know why, but I think that was the reason. So I loved the idea of, you know, like Jessica and, you know, and Matt showing up in the background, or you know, Matt as a lawyer advising Peter Parker or whatever it is, you know, would be really, really cool. But I think that's and obviously it happens with Clark Gregg a lot in the Avenger movies.
Yep.
Yes, my love. Oh, the film's over. Okay, I'm gonna come and watch the ending with you in a minute. My daughter's watching The Lion King.
Oh, okay. Very good movie. Quick, you said you watched the movies. I mean, are you all caught up? Are you through Endgame even, or have you not seen Endgame yet?
Yes, I'm through all that. There's a couple I haven't seen. Wait, is Black Widow come out?
Not yet.
Oh, no. Okay, so I haven't seen that. Yeah, so I'm all caught up.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Everyone comes out. Were you kind of thinking like, man, I wish Daredevil was there? Big old portal scene.
I'm thinking, well done. You finished the whole thing. Okay, great. I'm just finishing a phone call. I'll be right with you. Okay. Sorry, what was the question again?
The portal scene. Everyone comes out to help. You know, I mean.
Yeah.
Do you want?
You know, again, I don't want to. I'm happy with what I got. It'd be obviously all of that stuff would be great, but you know, I think it's just, and you look, I'm just an actor. I don't know. I think it's just more complicated than I could even imagine, and I understand that. You know.
Absolutely. Final question. Save Daredevil. Obviously, you mentioned that. That's just this huge, big movement. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people. I don't really have a question per se. But you now have a platform to say whatever you want.
The only thing is I just like to say thank you to all those guys. I don't know that it's going to do anything, but it means a lot to a lot of people, and it certainly means a lot to me. Last year I did a play. I did a play on Broadway and in the West End, and me and Tom Hiddleston, who obviously plays Loki, and Zowie, who was the other actor in the play. It was three of us in the play. We always had a joke about how many Save Daredevil T-shirts there would be in the audience each night. And these guys would come and they'd often book out the first 2 rows, and the curtain would go up. And when the curtain went up on this play, all three of us are sitting at the stage, and we have to have kind of a stern look on our face. That was how it was directed. Have this look of, you know, quite impending doom almost kind of thing. But as the curtain go up and I'd see a row of these red T-shirts with the Save Daredevil, and me and Tom, I could hear Tom laughing, like I could hear him speaking, and I have to speak in the first scene, like I have the first line, so I'd be, yes, my love. No, because she's sleeping, but I'll be in a minute. I'm going to come play with you. We're going to go outside. So I'd all see these people these shirts appearing, and I'd suddenly be like trying not to laugh, because it was kind of, and it meant the world to me, and I know it means the world to everyone involved with that show.
Okay. That is all I had, Charlie. Thank you. Thanks so much for being a part of this.
Hey, I thank Adam. Listen, I don't know if you've organized this or who's organized this, but when Eric told me about it, I'm sorry I don't have social media. I'd love to be involved and tweeting along. I don't have even that on my phone. I don't know how to do that, but I will be thinking of you guys, and maybe I'll turn it on at the same time and be there in spirit. So please thank whoever's responsible for doing this, and I hope it's a great time.